strong. Thanks for everything and best of luck on your new adventure. Let's give...
Thank you for that intro, John. So as John said, my name is Nickolas Harris. We started the conference back in 2015, and this is my 10th and final conference as I will be leaving South Korea this summer. GECMUN has been a tremendous part of my life. Every year around this time of February, March, I've been involved with GECMUN ever since 2015. And I know some of you feel like this conference is quite synonymous with me because, well, I've been here all these years. But the reality is, as I leave, this conference will continue to go on strong because the conference was really never about John or about me. It was about the ideals we had when we started this conference, which is what I'd like to share with you today. So a little bit of a story time. Back in 2015, when John and I originally started this conference, we actually had a motto, a tagline per se, of change the game of MUN. And this rather naive, maybe ambitious goal we had is something John and I thought about with the MUN scene. He was 17, I was 27, and there were a lot of things we thought that could change with the MUN scene in Korea. And specifically, we wanted to change 3 things. And I wanted to share with you guys those 3 ideals we had and what our goals were. So the first goal was to eliminate, or at the very least discourage, the hierarchical system. One thing we realized is a lot of the conferences we visited, the secretariats were exclusively seniors, the chairs were exclusively seniors, the delegates were juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and the staff was middle school. And we felt like this went against a lot of what we believed in, especially when it comes to things like meritocracy and the best person getting the position they deserve. Another thing John and I shared in common is we were both soccer players, and we both felt like, kind of like sports teams, you play the best players. Whether they're freshmen or 12th grade, the best player plays. So under that ethos, for our conference, we aggressively, and sorry, this mic is surprisingly low for me. It's usually I have to lower it. There we go. Just like a sports team, we aggressively recruited freshmen into leadership positions, and they did a great job. Initially, there was some resistance where freshmen felt weird, like ordering around seniors, especially in Korean culture. But as time passed, people got used to it. And I think it really prepares students for life after high school, where you will have bosses who are older than you and younger than you. You'll also employ people who are older than you and younger than you, right? You can't simply always rely on the hierarchical system. So we felt like GECMUN did a great job preparing for the life you'll live after high school. I've been using my notes at all. I had discovered the success of this past fall. As I was walking past a GECMUN committee, so that's a small conference we hold in November, I noticed one of the chairs looked very young. He looked about 7th or 8th grade. I later found out he was in 9th grade, but still quite young to be a chair. And this chair was doing a great job in his committee, handling everything with great authority, confidence. And in some ways, I felt like that goal that John and I had 9 years ago was being realized, that we saw a 9th grade chair, controlling the room and doing a great job. So that was the first thing. The second goal was to introduce crisis committees. I first came across crisis committees when I lived in Honduras. Our team would attend U.S. college circuit conferences like GECMUN by Columbia University, Busan by Brown University, and there, for the first time, I figured out what crisis was. And crisis committees, delegates would represent people instead of countries. It was a little bit faster pace, and it required students to be a little bit more fast thinking on their feet and a little bit more creativity than a GA. And I immediately fell in love with these crisis committees. We came back to Honduras and we immediately implemented them in our own conferences. A few years later, I would arrive to Korea in 2014. At the time, there were no crisis committees in the MUN circuit here. In fact, there was a real negative negative feeling towards crisis committees. Advisors and adults felt like crisis committees were, not academic enough and unrealistic. Despite this pushback, John and I pushed forward with Hunger Games Committee, Scotland Yard, and Cuban Missile Crisis our first 2 years. And they were big hits, and the schools that visited for GECMUN 2 and 3 went back to their schools saying, hey, we want to do crisis committees too. Fast forward the clock, 5 years later, when I was looking up Korean MUN conferences, I noticed more than 20 conferences in the country had crisis committees. So we sure enough had left a real impact on the MUN scene. And I'm convinced that if you see any crisis committees in Korea, usually the origin of that is from this conference, it's from the GECMUN conferences in the early 2010s. So something we're quite proud of. The last and final, and the most important point that Jean and I had in mind was creating a conference that is centered around delegates. One thing that we've noticed in some of the other conferences was that the conferences were oriented around the chairs and the secretariats. And in all honesty, a lot of the money also went to those places too, like flights for chairs or hotels for chairs. And we felt like delegates were paying 200,000, 300,000 won, and they were getting very little back. They weren't getting any goods. The awards were like a piece of A4 paper. And we looked at each other and we're like, we could do better than this. You know, give us a reasonable funding and we will do good. And this is what it's come to. You know, big awards, and you get your flags, your placards. And it's because we've started with this ethos that this conference is for the delegates. We as secretariats, chairs, you know, advisors, we're here to serve you guys. And I hope you delegates feel that this has been a conference that, you know, centers around you guys. In fact, if you look at the GECMUN Secretariat, for example, literally every single one of them has been a delegate and they've been a chair. So they know exactly how you guys feel, right? They know the nervousness of opening speech. They know the frustration of when someone keeps giving you unfriendly amendments or someone sending you weird private directives, and you know, they've gone through those frustrations and nervousnesses, but they've also gone through the joys of passing resolutions, public directives, and just the joy of making friends and meeting new people in these MUN conferences. Right? They've been there. And in the same way, delegates today, a few years from now, some of you will be chairs, and then eventually be part of this secretariat team. So I think we've started a real good cycle where it's truly a conference for the delegates, by the delegates, former delegates. Now, I'll start wrapping things up. I think as international school students and teachers, one thing we consistently seek is a sense of belonging. Many of us in this room, in some ways, are global nomads, or we simply don't fit in with the local population. We often come from a variety of backgrounds that maybe don't squarely fit into the society around us. In that sense, I think as international school students and as teachers, we are consistently seeking a place we can call home, a community we feel we can belong to. I hope that in some shape or form, for all of you, this GECMUN was a community you now feel officially part of. If you have heard me speak at previous conferences, a point I consistently make is the importance to develop new friendships and meet new people in these conferences. Right? These are the relationships you'll continue to treasure for the rest of your high school years and beyond. I know for myself, GECMUN has made my life a lot happier, a lot brighter. It's helped me connect with fellow CASJMUN advisors like Eva Bigart, Michael Rosari, Daniel Shillany, Julia Scribner, Neil Barno, and Eric Kwan, to name a few. Similarly, without GECMUN, I wouldn't have the chance to closely collaborate with such amazing students like our secretariat members, Hajin, Stella, John. So I'm incredibly grateful to all the people this conference let me meet. Now, in closing, I want to thank each and every one of you for being part of this journey. Some of you I have been with from when you were in 9th grade, or maybe even younger in your MUN careers, and it's been a pleasure to see you grow as MUNers. For others, maybe we just met yesterday for the first time, and maybe this is your first conference. That's kind of cool. Your first conference, my last conference. Hopefully you'll come back to GECMUN 11 next year. And on that note, that's pretty much all I have written down. I'm full of so much appreciation, gratitude, really cool hotel we have this thing in, right? So overall, I think I've just been so lucky that, you know, we have all you guys here, especially visiting schools. I know how tough it is to travel. especially international flights. So again, much appreciation. We hope you guys come back next year to GECMUN 11, March 8th, 9th, 2025. Yes, we do have the date set, so please come to that. As John said, I might bring my team from Saudi Arabia. We'll see what happens. And on that note, that's it from me. The last task I have now is to hand over this mic to Stella and Hajin, who will now move into adjourning this conference. Again, thank you guys for coming, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. It's his best photo.